Hi guys, I'm Brian from Hope Drums. In this video we're going to take a look at the original Yamaha DTXtreme module and show you some suggested settings for use with Pintech drums and cymbals. Taking a look at the face of the DTXtreme, the area we're going to work with is the trigger section, so we're going to press trigger under the drum kit. There are 3 pages, if you will, for the trigger settings. We're on the first page. You're going to use these arrows up and down to scroll between the pages. Okay, zooming in, let's take a closer look at the screen to explain what some of these are. You have your input selection. You can manually change the different inputs from tom to snare, etc. down the list. The next button is your trigger type. Then you have your gain. That's more commonly known as sensitivity. The curve. All of our drums and cymbals are set at 3 because that's a linear curve. If you're familiar with the Roland module, that's what you would see. It's linear. Okay, page number 2. The level here is essentially your threshold. The higher you increase this, it's going to not allow lighter hits to trigger. It's going to eliminate those lighter hits from triggering. That's going to be used if you're having double triggering with, say, on your bass drum from a secondary beater strike, if you're resting the beater on the head. The velocity can be set from 0 to 127, and that has to do with the loudness of the hit. We're looking at the snare drum input. I have the velocity set at 3 because I want even lighter hits to have an audible sound. Our self-rejection is for double triggering. That is essentially like your mask time on a Roland module. Your rejection is for crosstalk, and then you have specific rejection. That is an even more in-depth crosstalk feature that will allow you to reject signals coming from other pads. For example, if you have 2 toms beside one another, and if you strike your second tom and it triggers your first tom, you can actually set this so that it's not going to allow that other tom to trigger yours if it's coming from a specific input. One thing I want to show you is how I set up the actual gain. We're going to look at the snare drum real quick, and you'll notice that I have the level is set 0 to 100, and then velocity is 3 to 27. Beside velocity, in these parentheses, you'll notice as I strike the drum, the number starts to appear. Okay, I don't want to completely max that out with every hit, so we're going to go back to the first page using the up and down buttons. We're going to look at the gain. Right now it's set at 25. I'm going to increase that to, say, 30. We're going to go back down and look at this velocity. And you notice how it maxes out at 127. That tells me that my gain is set too high. It's not going to allow my snare drum to be very dynamic. I'm going to go back to the first page and I'm going to back that gain down. Let's go to 27. We're at 119 now, which is not bad. Still not maxing out. It gives me good dynamics. We're going to go back down to 25. With a gain of 25, it's got me at a level of 90%. The highest velocity is 114. The 25 gain to me was the most dynamic range. That's what I use to determine where I'm going to set the gain for the module. We're going to take a look at our snare drum first. Have a very responsive snare drum. Our trigger type is the RH for real head pad. The gain is at 25. It's number 3 for the linear curve. My level is 0 to 100%. Velocity is 3 to 127. Self-rejection is 6 milliseconds. Rejection is at 4. Our next pad is a Pintech Tom. It's also a real head pad with a gain of 25. It's a linear curve, so number 3. Level is 0 to 100. Velocity is 0 to 127. I've got the self-rejection at its lowest at 6. The rejection set at 1. Okay, next we're going to try a ride cymbal. It's going to be a Visualite. I have it set as a PCY, a gain of 40. I like a little bit more loudness on my ride cymbal. Linear curve. The level is 0 to 100. Now notice I have the velocity set to a minimum of 20. That means those lighter strokes are going to produce a louder sound. The self-rejection is at 6 milliseconds. Rejection I have set at 1. Now if you're having problems with crosstalk, you can increase the rejection to eliminate those issues. Next, let's look at our crash cymbal. It's a PCY trigger type. The gain is at 28. I have a linear curve. Level is 0 to 100%. Velocity is 0 to 127. The self-rejection is at 6 milliseconds. The rejection is at 1. Next we're going to take a look at our hi-hat. It's set as a PCY, a gain of 30. Linear curve. Level is 0 to 100%. I have the velocity turned up to 30. So the lighter hits are going to come through clean. Self-rejection is at 6 milliseconds. Rejection is at 1. Last but not least is our kick drum. It is a real head kick. The gain is at 20. It's a linear curve. The level is set at 30 to eliminate some double triggering or false triggering from the beater bouncing back on the head. I have the velocity set at 30 so that you can pick up those weaker signals. The self-rejection, you'll notice, is turned up to 50 milliseconds. That's going to eliminate double triggering or false triggering. And I have the rejection set at 1. Now we want to save this, so we're going to press our store button. And it will actually allow you to store it to whichever kit. You're going to press enter. It's going to ask, are you sure? And then we're going to press enter again, yes, and it's going to save it for us. Now remember, these are just some suggested settings for your Pintech pads with the Yamaha DTXtreme. If you found some better settings or tips or tricks you'd like to share, please post them online at the Pintech forum. You can access it through their website, pintechworld.com. We'd love to hear from you. Until then, take care and keep drumming.